We have gone over how air, water, and minerals make soil, but we have one more component to talk about, and that is organic matter. So stay tuned for Soils with CL.O.R.P.T. So far, we have 3/4 of the ingredients that we need to make soil. But the last one that we're going to talk about today is organic matter, which is also abbreviated SOM for soil organic matter. But what is that? Soil organic matter is the material in the soil that is made up of living and dead parts of plants and animals. That sounds weird, and I get it, but let me explain. We talked a little bit about microorganisms in the soil, but there are different types of organisms that live in the soil, such as earthworms, nematodes, plants, and pillybugs. A pillybug might shed a little bit of their exoskeleton. An earthworm might move about and leave poop behind. A plant may shed some dead roots under the soil or dead leaves on top of the soil. Every living thing has to leave some part of them behind as they grow and evolve. You and I do it every day, whether it's going to the bathroom or shedding hair as we brush our head. Plants are always shedding leaves, and animals leave a little bit of themselves behind in the form of fur and excrements. Wait, you're saying that there's poop in the soil? Yep, and you want it to be there. Worm poop, also known as worm castings or black gold, is incredibly rich in nutrients that plants need to grow, such as calcium, magnesium, and iron. Exoskeletons and dead plant roots are also sources of nutrition for other creatures in the soil, who eat them, decompose them, which means to digest, break apart, and break down, and then poop out the remains, which become nutrients for other plants and organisms. The soil is recycling because plants and animals leave behind parts of themselves for smaller creatures to eat and digest, for then smaller creatures to eat and digest, and for smaller creatures to eat and digest. So the cycle continues. And that cycle leaves behind rich fertilizer as nutrients for your plants to grow. And even when an entire plant or organism dies in the soil, their body will break down into smaller and smaller pieces, which will get eaten, and so on. When an organism poops or sheds and leaves something behind, the organism and what it leaves behind is what is considered organic matter. But how does C.L.O.R.P.T fit into this? There are different organisms in different climates. For example, here in Phoenix, there's not as many pine trees, but there is a lot of cacti. And in colder climates, you're going to find the exact opposite. The type of climate will determine the types of plants and animals that can live there. Now, the O for organisms kind of just spoke for itself. Relief is very similar to what we talked about in our prior videos, but you're going to find the most organisms where there are the most plants. And you will find plants all along the high and the low parts of land. But where there is the richest soil, which we will talk about in another video, there will usually be the most organisms. Parent material is interesting because the parent material can also be soil organic matter. So remember that the parent material is the starting point of what makes soil. It's that initial material. That can be rocks and it can be organic matter. And finally, time is important because it takes time for things to break down. Plants that have more complex tissue structures, such as corn stalks, are going to take longer to break down than, let's say, a beanstalk. And organisms that have more of a hard exoskeleton, like a beetle or a pillybug, are going to take longer to break down than an earthworm. We'll talk about those in much later videos. So that concludes our videos on C.L.O.R.P.T and what soil is made of. Now that you have the basics, we're going to move on into more complex topics about soil. Our next video will be about the soil texture triangle, which will tell us how to classify soils based on their characteristics. Then we're going to move on into the 12 orders of soil taxonomy, which are the 12 different types of soils listed here. So that's it for now. Thank you for watching my channel. I hope to see you again soon. And until then,